are stronger than your circumstances. That's the invitation. And understand, choosing doesn't mean it changes overnight. No. Philosophy works like the seasons. You plant it, you water it, you cultivate it. Over time, it grows into a harvest. So don't get discouraged if the first month feels the same. Just keep feeding your mind good ideas. Keep practicing small disciplines. Keep rejecting weak thinking. The seasons will eventually reward the farmer who plants wisely. I invite you to imagine 5 years from now. If you keep living by your current philosophy, where will you be? Now imagine if you redesigned it, if you filled your mind with the best ideas, lived with discipline, practiced responsibility. Where would that take you? The difference is clear, and the decision belongs to you. And it really is that simple. You just have to choose. Choose discipline over neglect. Choose responsibility over excuses. Choose growth over stagnation. Choose a philosophy that will serve you for the rest of your life. Because if you do, the years ahead can be rich with reward. And if you don't, the years ahead will be heavy with regret. The choice is always yours. He said, Mr. Rohn, I've got big dreams. And I smiled because I've heard that before. In fact, I've said that before. I told him that it was wonderful. Dreams are where it starts. But when? When does it actually start? No. And the first word that came out of his mouth told me everything that I needed to know about those dreams. They weren't going to come true. That first word was someday. And that was a problem. Because someday is the disease that will take your dreams to the grave. Dreams without deadlines turn into wishes. And wishes don't build houses. They don't grow businesses. They don't change your health. And they don't put money in the bank. I learned early on that the difference between a dreamer and a doer is a calendar. You can dream all day long. You can dream standing up, sitting down, walking around. But until you pick a date, until you draw a line on the calendar, that dream just floats in the air like a balloon. You need to grab the string and tie it down. That's what a deadline does. It ties your dream to the ground so it can take root and grow. You've seen people drift, haven't you? 10 years go by and they say, one of these days I'll do it. 20 years go by, and the dream is still hanging out there in the fog. That's the danger. Life slips by, and suddenly you look back and wonder where it all went. Don't let that happen. Take the dream out of the clouds, put it on paper, and then stamp a date on it. Deadlines don't make life easy. They make life clear. If you tell me you want to lose 20 pounds, fine. By when? You want to double your income? Fine. By when? Without the by when, it's not a goal. It's just a hope. And hope is fine for the soul, but it's a terrible strategy. for achievement. I remember when I decided to become a millionaire. Not just someday I wrote it down, and I wrote down the date. Then the clock started ticking. And when the clock starts ticking, you start working. Because now the dream is chasing you as much as you're chasing it. That's the power of deadlines. They create a healthy pressure. They wake you up earlier. They keep you up later. They sharpen your focus. A dream with no deadline is like a bow with no string. Looks nice hanging on the wall, but it will never send an arrow flying. And here's something else I discovered. The date doesn't have to be perfect. You may not hit it exactly. That's not failure. That's refinement. Maybe you missed the deadline by 6 months, maybe a year. So what? At least you're moving. At least the dream is pulling you forward. If you don't put the deadline down, you don't even have the chance to adjust. You'll just drift. And drift is deadly. So I ask again, what are your dreams? And more importantly, when? That's the question that will change your future. Not just what do you want, but by when will you have it? Don't let life hand you the calendar. You take the pen. You circle the date. You decide when the dream becomes a goal, when the goal becomes a plan, and when the plan becomes reality. Dreams require deadlines. Otherwise, they vanish like smoke. When I was a boy growing up in Idaho, we didn't have much. My father worked hard as a farmer, and my mother worked just as hard in the home. But one thing I noticed early on was that farmers understand deadlines. If you tell a farmer, someday I'll plant my crop, he'll laugh at you. Because the season doesn't wait for someday. The ground waits for no man. There's a window for planting, and if you miss it, you don't get a harvest. That's not philosophy, that's fact. The earth demands deadlines. Life does too. Think about it. Spring has a deadline. You can't say, well, I'll get to it when I feel inspired. The soil doesn't care about your inspiration. It cares about whether the seed is in the ground on time. And if you don't set your own deadlines, life will send you through. Tax day comes whether you're ready or not. Bills come due whether you're prepared or not. The rent is the rent. The seasons roll on. So the question is not whether deadlines exist, but whether you're wise enough to use them in your favor. Now, I didn't always live by this. For a long time, I thought enthusiasm alone would carry me. I'd hear a speaker, get excited, fill a notebook, and then go right back to old habits. I had dreams, but they were vague. I said, one of these days, I'll get serious. But you know what happens to one of these days? They pile up. And after a while, you're sitting on a stack of yesterdays with nothing to show for it. That was me at age 25. Broke, behind, and blaming circumstances. Until one day, Mr. Shove said, Mr. Rohn, the future is not going to change until you change. And the way you change is to pick a date. I still remember the first time I wrote down a real goal with a real deadline. It was simple. I said, by the end of this year, I'll save $5,000. At the time, $5,000 felt like a mountain. I had never had that much money sitting in the bank. But something happened when I put the year's end as the deadline. Suddenly, every dollar had a purpose. Every purchase had to pass a new test. Does this help me hit the deadline or not? That's what a deadline does. It forces decision. Without it, money slips through your fingers. With it, money starts to gather. You see, deadlines are not there to punish you. They're there to serve you. They bring your dreams out of the clouds and into your hands. Without them, you drift. With them, you build. I've met people who are talented, intelligent, full of ideas, but they never set a date. And guess what? 10 years years later, they're still thinking about it. Meanwhile, someone less talented, less educated, but with a calendar in hand, has built a fortune, built a family, built a life. Why? Because they treated their dreams like appointments, not like wishes. Here's the key. Discipline follows a deadline. Without a deadline, discipline has no time. But once you set the date, discipline becomes your ally. It's not just about working hard. It's about working smart, working on time. The clock is running. The days are counting. And that makes every hour precious. That's how ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. So I say it again. Don't just dream. Don't just hope. Don't just talk. Take that dream, circle the date, and let the deadline shape your behavior. You'll be amazed at how life bends in your favor when you give it a timeline. One of the great lessons I learned early in life is that time is deceptive. A year feels like a long time until it's gone. 5 years feels like a lifetime until you're looking back at it. I used to say, I'll get to it next year. And before I knew it, 5 next years had slipped by. I was still the same, except older. Nothing had changed. That's when it hit me. Time is either your ally or your enemy. And the difference comes down to whether you use it with intention, whether you tie it to a deadline. Deadlines give time shape. Without them, time is like water running through your hands. With them, time becomes a container. It holds something. It carries weight. And once you feel that